hello, I'm Kira. I don't have a jazzy opening, let's just get into it. It's another hell of a boss analysis video. Someone said they'd be interested on my take on Blitz, so though I know Blitz has also been analyzed to heck and back, it was really flattering of him to say so. So here's the Blitz analysis to accompany my Stolas one. I'll disclaimer that this is my take that you don't have to also take. There are a million and one ways to interpret characters, and yeah, that's it. That's my disclaimer. If you didn't watch my Stolas analysis, basically I talk about how childhood isolation led to Stolas being unable to pick up on social cues, carry out normal conversations, and the creation of certain personas. And these personas are why he's capable of acting very mature and understanding with Octavia when she is young and always very obvious with their feelings, or when she's older and lays out exactly why she is upset. Because Stolas requires people to be very obvious because he misses out on more subtle signs, versus the person he is with Blitz, who acts younger, less jaded than his parent self, but doesn't understand the back and forth of being in a relationship due to not having experience and also relying on fictional romances to guide his romantic actions. So Stolas truly lacks a sense of self that he does need to develop before he can truly be in a relationship. But hey, let's talk about the other side of that relationship. Blitz, 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 Blitz. This is a Blitz video. So, Blitz. Blitz is actually way more straightforward to me than Stolas due to a real defining moment as opposed to Stolas' years of solitude. Though because there are so many different parts to Blitz's particular brand of screwed up, my map sort of jumps around. So this involves a little bit of speculation on my part, which I say because I don't want to claim things are fact without actual confirmation. I guess that's another disclaimer. But it does seem that Blitz was born into the circus life, along with Barbie Wire, with a caring mother and a trash father. Why caring mother was ever with trash father to begin with, we don't know, but she was definitely the parent that Blitz loved. Blitz, or Blitzø at this point, had his relationship with his mother, his sister, which seemed to be positive due to the existence of their double act and the fact he still cares about her. And he had Fizz as a best friend. His feelings for Fizz seemed to turn romantic at some point, which we can guess from the letter and flower you wanted to give Fizz the day of the fire, but also, little blushy face here, like, oh dear, he's still kind of down bad. But yeah, Blitzø may have had the circus life with little proper education, judging by his poor spelling and general vocabulary, but there was a lot of happiness in it due to the people he held close. Now, Blitz is also extremely affected by Hell's classism and is aware of it in a way others aren't. Obviously, his first time meeting Stolas involved him being rented out by his father to a noble so Cash could make some quick money, and also get his son to steal stuff out of the Goetia mansion. This matters. Blitz's first interaction with Stolas was being sold, being used as an item, transactional, which he was very aware of, whereas Stolas just knew that for his birthday, he got a friend, not questioning how that friend came to be there. As a child, Blitz already had dreams of running his own business, of being able to tell other people what to do, including Stolas, a noble, and generally being free of the life he was born into in favor of a life where he is in control. Control is a huge part of Blitz's problem, so the fact that issue shows up so early in his life is significant. Another example of Blitz being more aware of the social class problem in Hell is shown when he and Fizz go to Mammon's show. People across the rings are taken in by Mammon's act, both at the show Fizz and Blitz attend, and in the clown pageant Fizz competes in. Mammon has influence everywhere through how he markets Fizz. But back when they were in their early teens, Blitz called Mammon out while Fizz was enchanted by him, showcasing how Blitz was immediately aware of a fraud when he saw one, maybe because he had a total fraud for a father. A main point, Blitz is aware of the hierarchy of Hell, where other people are more naive, and so will naturally pick up on any side of it because he's looking. Now, the defining moment, the fire. Completely an accident, yet something Blitz would hold himself accountable for and hates himself over. We know his mother was killed in the fire, and it seems that this was the point Barb split from Blitz as well, because Blitz tells Fizz that he was all he had left, but Fizz didn't want to see him. Now, Cash seems most likely culprit to keeping Blitz and Fizz apart because A, that's what it looks like in the trailer, and B, it makes sense he would want to focus on his cash cow rather than on his son who ruined everything. And running Blitz off would actually kind of take care of a problem. This leads into Fizz's slightly murky timeline for a few years before he became Mammon's cash cow instead, but whatever, this isn't a Fizz video. Blitz was put out into the world alone, and as much as he might try to act like he is capable of working alone, he knows he really isn't. As the Robo-Fizz says in Truth Seekers, you tried the solo act, it didn't work out, indicating that Blitz, I live with elephants, did try to make it by himself, but failed. We did get a tiny flashback of Blitz working in Lululand, so there is that. More importantly, the striker in that episode says not only does Blitz, he can't make it on his own, but he doesn't want to. So why can't Blitz be on his own? There could be a case that Blitz by himself wouldn't be capable of hurting more people, so that would be the safest course of action. But Blitz did grow up with people who loved him, and we tend to gravitate to what we know. However, Blitz would have to temper the way in which he let people into his life, which is where Blitz's own transactional relationships began. Blitz craves relationships.
Your subconscious is trying to tell you that you simply cannot fathom proper intimacy, but also craving as well.
Yet, when he had the sort of relationships of conditional love, those people either died or cut him out of their lives. Obviously, the way to have people in his life is to turn the tables so Blitz can cut people out first. I believe this is where Blitz would start having these harmful relationships, all ones where he could skip out before things got real. And even if things did get real and he grew to care about the other person, all he had to do was something awful and they would stop loving him, the same way he lost Barb and Fizz due to the fire. Veronica gets too close, steal her car and max out her credit cards on horse riding lessons, actions that he controls purposefully to drive her away. He is in control. But these fleeting romances wouldn't actually satisfy Blitz's needs.
I need something that's more family friendly.
He would need something more permanent, more like what he once had, but also something he could still cut ties with if needed. So the first step Blitz takes to not being alone is to adopt a child. Is this a way for him to try to prove he's better than his father? Maybe. Perhaps it's just easiest since none of Blitz's solo acts have worked out and his romantic relationships are a mess. Now, Blitz does immediately bond with Loona, seeing her scared and alone, but the other important thing about Loona is that she is almost an adult when he adopts her. While Blitz is very proud of being Loona's father and dotes on her, because she isn't a child who would depend on him during her formative years or even need him financially since she would be already capable of getting a job, it is a relationship where one or both of them could walk away. Blitz's words in Spring Breakers are interesting. Basically, I adopted you and that's supposed to mean something, rather than I adopted you and that means something. It's subtle, but it gives away that Blitz is thinking about the meaning of adoption rather than adoption itself. I did this thing because it's supposed to mean something. It's supposed to make me less lonely. It's supposed to make me a father. It's supposed to make us a family. He loves Loona. We know that. But I think the part of Blitz is prepared for Loona to leave, as shown by the fact he questioned Loona on whether or not she'll be there when he dies. For him, it's never a certainty. Next comes I.M.P. Blitz meets Moxie in prison, immediately sees something he can make use of in Moxie, and the two of them, well, presumably they break out. Moxie, of course, has followed his father as an authority figure all his life and still struggles with taking control due to self-doubt, as demonstrated very well in Unhappy Campers. So it was natural for him to replace his father with Blitz, even supplanting the Sir, which once again gave Blitz a relationship where he could build a little family but still cut ties and run because Moxie is at the end of the day an employee, and Millie joins him there in that role as well soon after. Notice how when Blitz met Stryker, who impacted him enough to appear in his little dream in Truth Seekers, he didn't exchange numbers or anything. He offered him a job. If this doesn't show how Blitz can't do anything without a way to break it off, what does? Casual friendship? Nah, employee. But back with M&M, this is where we see how desperate Blitz is for his little workplace family to mean something. I already mentioned how he dotes on Loona, but the way he tries to interject himself into Millie and Moxie's marriage obviously goes way beyond normal. He tries to interject himself in their sex lives and their daily lives, just tries to fit himself into this pretty new marriage. I think this deserves a little bit of its own discussion. Hydration break. Blitz, you're making me lose my voice. Why is Blitz so fixated on M&M? There is definitely a sexual component to it, but I haven't even gotten into Blitz and sex yet, so, yes. He has been a total creep and watched M&M having sex and fantasized about having a threesome. He was noticeably happy that all three of them ended up having sex with Chaz before Chaz's untimely end, like the indirect kiss, but, indirect penis instead. Which, I don't know. I'm just sorry Loona had to be there for that conversation. But given the chance, I don't think Blitz would actually become a part of that relationship because M&M is a good thing for him. He's jealous of the fact they spend so much time together, as again shown in Truth Seekers. And we can see how he inserted himself into their wedding photos like they were his own pride and joy. Hell, maybe he thinks he played a bit of matchmaker getting them to meet. We don't know. But Blitz sees M&M as good and sees himself as a corrupting influence who ruins things due to the fire. So yes, he wants a third wheel their date, slips into their place, gets very inappropriate in the way only Blitz can. But M&M are probably the healthiest couple Blitz has ever been close to in his life. I mean, that's me spitballing, but I just don't see Cash being a wonderful husband. What M&M have is something entirely new to Blitz, and it obviously makes them happy, so it makes complete sense that Blitz would try to be close to that. Even if I personally think he would back off at the last second so he couldn't actually turn things bad. I think that's just honestly his deal with M&M. They're a freaking wonder of the world, someone who has never known a healthy couple, and their dynamic is part of his little found family. He refers to them as M&M. When he's tripping, Moxie says, "Me and the missus." As much as he values them as individuals, his calendar with separate days for celebrating Millie and Moxie is adorable. Blitz values them together because they provide something he sees as important to a family. Here's the happy couple, here's the daughter, and here's Blitz. What is his role? When in a romantic relationship, Blitz struggles to know his role, but when it comes to family, Blitz becomes something he has been in the past, but thinks that he failed to do correctly. Blitz is a protector. We saw that as a young teen, he was already very protective of Fizz, and even though these days he wraps his protective instincts up in barbed wire, he is still protective of his new family and goes to insane lengths to keep them safe. Think about Truth Seekers and how Blitz tried to keep Moxie first safe physically, and then unable to do that, keep him calm because Moxie is prone to freaking out. He's also kind of stupidly cute, making sure everybody in that episode later on has water and weapons. He actually stands up and speaks to Fizz for the first time in 15 years in order to stop Moxie from being mocked at Aussies when he could have kept his head down, and then later that night is there in an instant when Loona wants to be picked up from Bee's party. He sleeps with Chaz and uses that as a way to figure out what scam Chaz is pulling, leading to him and Millie pulling a Shrek. He's always worried about Luna's safety. I could go on, but Blitz is the protector of I.M.P. What is the biggest way he protects it? By having access to the human realm. Blitz's transactional relationship with Stolas is what Blitz does in order to protect his family, to keep it whole. This, in a way, is what he could use as his cut-and-run method, but he doesn't want to. Notice how upset he is in Full Moon at the idea of not having the grimoire. Blitz bounces back. It's what he's been forced to do his whole life. If he truly lost I.M.P. as a business, it's Blitz. He'd come up with something else. We know that. We see it. He's such a con artist that he makes the cons real. But his family would fail. He's not shedding tears over the idea of losing a business. He's crying because he thinks he's about to lose his family again, and is desperately trying to think of anything else of himself he can give so he might be able to keep it. He can do better and maybe be able to keep this good thing he's managed to build. I.M.P. is full of transactional relationships, that's true, but Blitz doesn't want to burn any of those bridges. After years of being alone, Blitz has his family again, and his role as protector, he will do anything to keep it whole. Which of course leads to the fact that Blitz would be destroyed if he lost his family as well, so he sort of failed when it came to the idea of being the one who could walk away, but this is also what Blitz needs as a person to heal from his past. More on what Blitz actually needs later, though. Okay, Blitz and sex because I brought it up. We know he and Fizz grew up together, and it seems like Fizz was Blitz's first crush. I want to take a moment to imagine the experience of working up the courage to tell the boy you like that you like him, and then watching his limbs and horns burn away while you stand there helpless. Like, actually taking a minute. God. Like, if Blitz thinks of himself as a bad thing that causes harm, what better way to start someone on that line of thinking than nearly killing your crush as a result of those feelings? Because if he never had those feelings, he would have never tried to give the flower and card to Fizz, failed at that, and accidentally started the fire. Blitz is going to link romance with catastrophe because of the events surrounding his first taste of love. Following the fire, we know that Blitz had various sexual escapades, maybe with some of the people from Verosika's party to Verosika herself. But, you know, with all of those, Blitz has separated romance and sex in his mind. And we see that really clearly with Stolas. It's when romance and sex become muddled up and possibly not transactional anymore that the warning lights start flashing. But sex is sex. Blitz has sex with people. He cuts and runs when it turns into feelings. Feelings lead to very bad things, but sex can just be sex because he didn't kill his mom by knocking over some romantic candles while losing his virginity. So yes, Blitz has issues with sex on top of everything else because sex and romance aren't allowed to mix in his world. Because I need to fit this in somewhere, Blitz versus the world. Blitz has built everything he has by himself after losing his family. Nothing has been given to him. Following the fire, he would have no money, no resources, and no one offering to help him. Blitz has reason to be proud of that, but it can also lead to him looking down on people who did have money, resources, and support. See how he refers to Fizz and his relationship with Oz. But Blitz is always looking for someone trying to squash him down, and most of the time he's right about them being there. Sometimes he isn't, most of the time he is. But Blitz has had so much bad stuff flung at him that he can't just take it. He needs to take a swing back. In fact, he needs to swing first because he knows the hit is coming. So if he takes initiative, he's more likely to win the fight. Which is where we see Blitz get angry. As a kid, Blitz was annoyed or pissed off even by that stalker guy, but we never saw him get actually angry. We see the Blitz of today do. When we see Blitz angry or hateful, it's usually coming from a source of hurt. Best example, Fizz. Blitz blames himself for what happened to Fizz and hates himself for it. Yet he hates the Robo-Fizz. Actually, working alongside it was the best self-flagellation I've ever seen outside of someone actually holding a bloody whip in their hand. But then he also has a blast destroying it later in the Lululand episode. Interesting choice, calling the robot modeled after your first crush slutty there, Blitz. But then he's also antagonistic to Fizz himself when they eventually meet face to face. He is defending Moxie in the club, and okay, here they have their little snark fest on the sidewalk. This is, oh no, wait, he's Blitz coming in for the kill because he has feelings about Fizz, and instead of feeling guilty about being why Fizz has no horns, how about we attack him in the street instead? Healthy behavior. But there's also Verosika, someone who forced Blitz to do the biggest cut and run so she would loathe his guts forever. And he knows he treated her terribly. But his first instinct on seeing her is endless insults so they can just go at it. Like, he didn't screw her over enough. Now he's going to call her slurs and start stupid challenges because what Blitz feels is guilt about what he did, but what he projects out is hate and anger. This is part of why I love his discussion with her and apology to her. No slurs, just hate her. Blitz actually allows himself to experience the negative emotions he associates with her and with so many other people, and he doesn't respond with anger. Okay, so, recap. Blitz had a family with members he loved, but he accidentally started the fire and killed his mother and lost touch with everyone else. He tried being alone for a while, but failed the solo act and started having toxic relationships where he could always be the one to let go first, so no real feelings needed on his part. Good thing, because Blitz turns feelings like guilt into anger and hate and goes at the world carrying a baseball bat because he's well aware of his inequalities and is always ready to have at it. His views on romance and sex are messed up due to what happened to his first crush, and he has a high protective instinct, just failing something he cares to protect. I.M.P. becomes something. While Loona does not rely on Blitz like a young child would and Millie and Moxie are employees, Blitz protects them as his new family by being physically protective and by getting a hold of the book. Might as well talk about Stolas now. So Blitz is sold to Stolas for the day as their first encounter and steals a lot of stuff as instructed by his father. The two do bond to the point Blitz tells of his future plans to own his business and maybe give Stolas a job. Then 20-some-odd years later, he wants to access the human world for I.M.P. business. He goes to steal a book, gets caught, and instead of being punished accordingly, Stolas starts flirting with him. Badly. But, hey, Blitz can do sex if that's what Stolas wants, and more importantly, will get him the book. Sex doesn't mean anything. It can be enjoyable and still not mean anything. We actually have no sign that Blitz meant to continue the affair with Stolas until the arrangement, and he agreed to do that while running for his life, without much say in the matter. But Blitz will do it because sex is just sex, and he needs the book to keep I.M.P. steady. However, it doesn't stay just sex. By truth seekers, we know Blitz had some romantic notions towards Stolas, or he wouldn't have appeared in his horrible acid truth serum dream. So in the time they weren't having sex, they did genuinely connect, and apparently Stolas will ask about Blitz's day via text and laugh at his jokes, so they do talk when not physically together. So the arrangement? Messed up. Stolas was using the book to get Blitz, and Blitz was using sex to get the book, which he needed to keep his family together. They're both using each other. Unfortunately, it takes a transactional relationship, like the ones Blitz wants, and turns it on him. He is now the one who would lose should he or Stolas cut and run, and he won't cut and run because the family he has is worth too much. Otherwise, he would have burnt that bridge at the first sign of actual emotional attachment. Because Blitz can't burn that bridge, however, he and Stolas do reach a point of actual connection, one that Stolas would use as a jumping point to falling in love. But Blitz and Stolas were never going to make it, however, as they are now. Maybe in the future. But as they are now, not going to make it, for numerous reasons. First, Stolas has his own issues, but Blitz is just not stable enough to hold a romantic relationship. It is not required for us to love ourselves to be in a relationship, but Blitz hates himself at the level he can't see himself as a person worth being with. Now, this is different with Loona and I.M.P. because Blitz knows he is providing something there. He is the dad, he is the boss, he's the protector, he knows his role, but he doesn't know who he is in a romantic relationship. And without a role, something to give, something to provide, he just has himself. And he doesn't see anything in himself as worth being with. He can't just be the protector for Stolas. The roles between people in a romantic relationship are not the same as the ones between family members. If you've had a relationship but also have siblings, you already know the way you do the exact same thing for those people. Support, protect, discourage, encourage, argue, fight, make up. But it's different depending on whether it's your partner or your siblings. If you haven't had those things, just take my word for it, it is different. But Blitz doesn't know who he is in a relationship with Stolas that doesn't include the book. With the book, he gives sex. During Full Moon and the beginning of Apology Tour, look at how he tries to go back to sex again and again because that's what he's used to giving. He wants to give it better. Things go terribly wrong one night, well, just try again with sex the next morning. But remove the book and therefore the requirement of sex, and Blitz is lost because, yes, they've built this relationship that has something to it, but take out the sex and this is suddenly very dangerous territory. So Blitz doesn't know his role, what he could bring to the relationship, because he hates himself too much to believe he has any inherent worth. This is shown well in how incredibly jaded he is when it comes to the idea Stolas might actually have feelings for him. Now, Stolas has been dropping the I have feelings for you thing since basically the beginning, when he thrilled about having Blitz, his very first friend, want him like this. Enough so that Blitz actually backtracked to have sex. But Blitz, who hates himself so very much, and initiates his relationships now by adopting, by employing, by starting romances he knows he's going to purposely destroy, and by doing so just adding to his huge reservoirs of guilt, is not going to be able to just accept that someone might just like him for him. And because he hates himself, he's going to look for reasons that people don't like him, just so he can hate himself more, or hate them more, or create some sort of hatred for himself, because that's what Blitz does with emotions he doesn't know how to handle. So when Stolas offers after Ozzy's that they could watch a movie or cuddle, Blitz gets very upset and angry and asserts that this is just about sex, that Stolas is always making that clear, which is nuts because Blitz is the one terrified of feelings, and Stolas is clearly standing there trying to make this not about sex, but Blitz can't handle that. Because if it's not about sex, that means that Stolas has found something about Blitz to like, and especially after what happened at Ozzy's, getting verbally attacked by Fizz, seeing Fizz for the first time in 15 years, and that's what happens, seeing the source for his troubles with romance for the first time in 15 years, and what he gets is public humiliation over his love life, and then Stolas hiding his face in his menu, whatever Stolas was hiding from, Blitz just saw Stolas being humiliated by him. This is where the hurt after the car ride comes from, because Stolas is not, in fact, constantly making sure Blitz knows this is just about sex. He invites him to the Harvest Moon Festival. He shows up for a date at Ozzy's looking like $1 million and tries to make it work, while Blitz is focused on M&M. Stolas is the one trying to advance here, but Blitz needs just one sign so that he can read Stolas as being ashamed of him, to have all that hate crashing back down, and he lashes out, goes home, scrolls through photos he knows are just going to make him remember why he hates himself even more. Like, the fact Blitz can get up in the morning is actually a miracle. He's so self-destructive. But even if it's not about sex, Blitz has more reasons that Stolas can't have feelings for him, so it's okay. Because Stolas is classist. And, I mean, yeah, he is. That's hell society. When you watch the show, imps are constantly being referred to as little by basically everyone, and generally looked down upon as a workforce. Like, see the Harvest Moon Festival. Millie's parents have just been going through some really tough times. We know that, but then there's this little festival that Stolas has been told to go to every year where he praises the imps for their work, and yay, let's have a little contest. It's very condescending, especially considering that's when we meet Stryker, who becomes a spokesperson for classism in hell. And Stolas was born into that system and then taught by that system how to behave. It's ingrained into hell society, like racism is ingrained into our own, and even more systemic considering the different races born in different rings and the livelihoods they get associated with each. Look at how Blitz initially admires both Crimson and Stryker for being fellow imps who aren't doing imp jobs. Look at how he founds his own assassination business and calls it I.M.P. Hell is classist. Blitz is aware. And then when Stolas calls him an itty-bitty imp or little impish plaything, even if Stolas meant it to be playful, Blitz is going to mark it down as another time Blitz treated him like an imp. So when Blitz really begins to struggle with keeping the relationship at just sex, he can still rely on Stolas' classism to give him a way out. And he makes it a two-way street.
I mean, you're a fucking prince. How could you ever actually care for an imp? Me. How could anybody?
Sure, he'll be an imp who Stolas looks down upon and get really angry about that, but then he'll also be an imp who's not good enough for Stolas in the first place because he's an imp. Literally any way Blitz can find to devalue himself, he will take it. Just to contrast between the ship that they're so easy to contrast to, Asmodeus also uses typical hell rhetoric and refers to imps as little. He refers to Fizz as little, but Fizz takes it in the cutesy way. He means it like, oh yeah, I am the cutest little thing around. Where Blitz gets visibly annoyed. Honestly, for most, but why did Stolas implode questions? Just look at Fizz and Oz to see how they did it differently. And it isn't even, well, they didn't have the same issues. Like, Oz is practically hell hierarchy, so that's there. Fizz has massive self-esteem issues and self-worth issues, so that's there. I think there's just more ability to listen and learn and forgive between those two, honestly, which Fizz demonstrates with Blitz. So yeah, okay, that isn't what this video is about, but when Fizz and Oz were introduced as a couple so soon before Full Moon, it becomes pretty clear that they're meant to be like the healthier version of Stolas, and can almost always be pulled up as an example of how they overcame the same or a similar issue. Oh boy, that was all over the place and didn't hit all I have about Blitz, but this is getting long. So, what does Blitz need to do? Honestly, my favorite episode for Blitz, and Stolas too, coincidentally, is Oops. Most of Blitz's trauma is focused in the fire. While he still had an awful father and hell as a classist society, if the fire hadn't occurred, Blitz would still have his mother, Barbie Wire, and Fizz. While we don't know the full story with Barbie, again, how she ended up in rehab and all that stuff, I'm guessing her feelings towards Blitz stem from the fire. But the fire happened. It can't be taken back. The healthiest thing Blitz has probably done since then was making up with Fizz. Being open about his emotions, about his guilt, admitting fault, and then making changes to his behavior so he doesn't hurt people he cares about again. Blitz needs to do that with every person he hurt. And I mean the ones that matter, not the people he hit up with gift baskets during Apology Tour. Like, hitting Fizz with a gift basket would have fixed things. No, Blitz needs to go through the process he did with Fizz with all those important people. Thank God, honestly, he showed he could do it with Fizz and that Fizz was open to listening and receiving his apology. But Blitz needs to properly talk with Barbie Wire. Maybe she won't want him in her life still, and that's her choice, that's prerogative, and that's her right. But Blitz needs to admit to his fault and apologize for what he did that hurt her, and then prove that he is willing and able to change that behavior. He honestly owes a heartfelt apology to Verostica so they can both move on. All the people who really matter, Blitz needs that complete unpacking of issues and apology so that both sides can let go of their hurt and the hate, and Blitz can start to heal. Because it's the example we have, and I find them precious, look at Blitz and Fizz before and after apologizing. Look how Blitz goes back to caring about Fizz, physically and emotionally. Look how he smiles. Look how at ease he is. He's gotten his best friend back after 15 years. This is the best thing ever. Imagine Blitz achieving that sort of comfort with all the people he cares about and finally being able to forgive his young self for making a mistake. Will Blitz always live with the guilt of starting the fire? Yes. It will take a lot of work for him to stop hating himself for it, which is why Blitz needs people on his side, people that he loves who will love him back and slowly remind him that he does actually have value built in and doesn't need to earn love with actions or roles, but by simply existing. I would be way more cynical about Blitz's chances of actually making this happening, but again, thank God for what happened with Fizz. I'm hoping next is Barbie Wire and maybe even seeking cash out, maybe? Not for an apology, but just so Blitz can have closure there on this guy who made him miserable as a kid. Anything so Blitz can start forgiving himself for what was truly an accident, so he can have others help him out of that pit of self-hatred he's been stuck in for so many years. Basically, Blitz needs to be able to do that terrifying thing and allow himself to have true relationships again. The kind he had with Fizz, and with Barbie, and with his mom, and the kind he's been desperately avoiding, yet desperately trying to emulate at the same time. The kind he has rekindled with his childhood best friend and can do successfully again, I'm sure. Hopefully now, after what happened with Stolas versus what happened with Fizz, Blitz will figure out what he wants, why one apology went down like the Hindenburg and the other restored a 15-year-old dead friendship with multiple limbs lost, and then what he wants to do moving forward. It's going to be really hard, but I actually have a lot of faith in him. Blitz wants to be surrounded by people. He wants a family. He now has someone to remind him of what his long-lost family was like. And as much as he's proven that he's a lot screwed up, Blitz also doesn't stop until he gets what he wants in this Hell Eat Imp world, so, good luck. Again, I'm Kira. I hope you're doing well wherever and whenever you are. If you enjoy this video, enjoy content, reaction videos, analysis vids, please consider, liking, subscribing. Everything helps for a small channel like mine. And I'll see you later. Bye.